Hello again YouTube and welcome back to Just Get a Tesla, and on this week's video I'm going to explore exactly how much it's cost me to own and run my Tesla Model Y over the last 2 years. Every cost, all in, let's go. As you can see, I am once again sat at my desk in the office, and once again this video is sponsored by Millibricks, which is my new online business selling Lego compatible tanks and planes and trucks and all of those other cool things if you're a big kid like me who just likes building things. But also part one of this series of videos talking about cost was talking about my insurance renewal. If you haven't seen that one, go and watch that one first and then come back here. Because what I realised was insurance obviously is only part of the cost. And yes, the insurance for the year that's about to start, so my 3rd year of ownership, is getting silly. But how much have I spent in total over the last 2 years owning my Tesla Model Y? And I get a lot of questions about this. So if you will forgive having 2 videos on the bounce about costs sat at my desk, then here we go. Although, let's be brutally honest, guys, I am now giving you 2 videos a week some weeks. So this is kind of just splitting the other one in half. So, I mean, it's 2 for the price of 1. If only you got 2 Teslas for the price of 1. Can you imagine? What on earth would you do with them? So I've moved the camera to leave some space for numbers, of which there's going to be quite a few, which we need to put up on the screen. So when we bought it, my Tesla Model Y long range cost £54,990, and it was bought through one of my companies as a company car on what's called a business contract purchase scheme. You're buying the car, but you pay a deposit, you pay monthlies, and then there's a guaranteed value balloon payment thing at the end. Okay, so a £6,000 deposit. We then had an immediate tax saving, thank you to the UK government, of £10,450, because you can write the entire value of the car off against company taxes that are owed. Good. Would I like to buy a Tesla or pay the money to the government? I'll have a Tesla, please. And since then, we've made 24 monthly payments, which are £694.69, so a total of £16,672.56. There is then a tax saving that can be made against the interest part of that, which is 24 lots of £181 minus 19%, which is a tax saving of £825.37. Okay, so that's all of the payments done. We then move on to insurance. So in my first year, the insurance was £746.84, which I thought was a lot of money. The second year proved me wrong because it was £1,294.43, and that was an adjusted figure. I had to pay them a little bit more partway through because I was doing more miles, thanks to Just Get a Tesla, than I had allowed for. We then have repairs because I needed to buy a replacement headlight unit after a stone drove a neat little hole in and let a load of water in, which shorted the thing out. So when you take the VAT off, because my company is VAT registered, that was £1,087.75. Okay. Tax and servicing. So road tax or vehicle license fund, whatever it's called in the UK, and servicing costs. 0. I do not pay road tax on the vehicle. I have not had any servicing on the vehicle. And then we have the tax savings on the insurance and the repair, because although I've already accounted for VAT on the repair and there was no VAT on the insurance because you don't pay VAT on insurance, but you still get to offset that against corporate taxes. So a tax saving of £594.51. All in, across all of the costs for actually having the vehicle, in 2 years, we have spent £13,931.70. That is the total cost of buying the car and taxing the car and operating the car from a cost perspective. Having done 40,500 miles in those first 2 years, that is a cost of 34.4 pence per mile. Okay, that's all of that part of it done. We're now going to talk about how much it costs to drive the car. And this is the bit where I think there's, looking at comments on recent videos, there are still some diehard diesel heads out there desperately clinging on to the idea that diesel is still the cheap fuel. And it just isn't. I have now gone back and looked at every single charging stop that I have done on superchargers and non-Tesla chargers, and I've added those costs up. And what's more, I've also looked at how many kilowatt hours I actually took. So, total supercharging for 4,470 kilowatt hours, I have paid £1,154.22. I do confess, thanks to the generosity of Just Get a Tesla viewers using my Tesla referral code when buying a car, I have been given some points which I've redeemed for various things, including free supercharging miles. So I haven't paid for all of the supercharging that I have done. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I then used ChargePlace Scotland, who are really, really, really expensive, but I've only done 151 kilowatt hours with CPS, and that was £85.51. We then have Mare, who are a charge network who've got a couple of chargers that I use on a reasonably occasional basis. I was about to say frequent, but it's not frequent. I use them sometimes. Anyway, 270 kilowatt hours, costing £67.63. So all in, the ones that I can calculate, and I do confess there were a couple of overnight charges at a hotel which were free, but I haven't metered that, so I can't include it. But all in, 4,891 kilowatt hours, costing £1,307.36. However, because it's a company vehicle, so there is then a corporation tax saving of £394.84. Okay? The car, across the entirety of the time that I've had it, has done somewhere around, and I can't be precise because it's had a new computer fitted which reset the clock, but it's done somewhere around 285 watt hours per mile. Okay? So 40,500 miles at 285 watt hours per mile means I have consumed 11,542 kilowatt hours in total. And the public charging was 4,891 kilowatt hours, which means I have charged here 6,651 kilowatt hours from the office charger. We then need to talk about how much that has cost. And you can basically split the electricity into two. Last year, we were paying net 14.0 pence per kilowatt hour. This year, we're paying 19.1 pence per kilowatt hour. And yes, absolutely, there are cheaper tariffs out there on domestic tariffs if you want to get really cheap charging for a few hours overnight, but we're not charging it at home, we're charging it at the office. Okay, so you then work all of those things out, and you have got last year costing £465.50 and this year costing £635.08. So £1,100.58 in electricity here in the office across those 2 years. So add those two numbers together and you get a total fuel cost across 2 years of £2,013.10. So that is 4.97 pence per mile. 5p a mile, guys. 5p a mile. All of you diesel drivers out there who are still insisting that EV is not cheap and that diesel actually is, you show me where you can get 5p a mile, yeah? Where the majority of your charging, or the majority, of your fueling, as my charging has been, is done whilst you sleep. You show me where you can get that, and then maybe I'll convert and go, you'll just get a diesel or something. All right, so If you then take the total costs of buying and taxing and maintaining the car of £13,931.70, and then you take the fuel costs of electricity of £2,013.10, it means that the total amount of money that we have spent on this car in 2 years is £15,944.80, which is 39.4 pence per mile, all in on everything, including the cost of buying the car. I don't think that is a dramatically bad deal for all in costs, okay? So it's not actually as bad as I thought that it was going to be, if I'm honest. Ian, stop. You've missed out the D word. The D word. Depreciation. I hear this endlessly, and I do mean endlessly, from fudders, fear, uncertainty, doubt, fudders, right? The people who spread the fudders. I hear absolute guff about depreciation. And remember, guys, they are trying to lecture me about the evils of EV depreciation when my last diesel car, Volvo S90, beautiful car, right? But when I bought it, nearly new, it was already 1/3 off the list price because the dealership had just ticked every option box and stuck it on their fleet to hit a quarterly target. And then they needed to offload it 4 months later because no one wanted to touch it, right? And then when I sold it 2 and a bit years later, it lost half the value of that again. So you went from a 50 grand car to a 16.5, I think, grand car, somewhere around that. Absolute crushing depreciation. So do not talk to me about depreciation on cars, okay? It's a car, it loses value. But because they're going to carry on screaming, I've actually gone and done a bit of research. And I did this actually because I've just done an insurance renewal, as you saw on the previous video. So a £54,990 car. Having had a look on Auto Trader at equivalent vehicles, I found 3 which were close enough to be able to say, okay, let's use those and take an average. So you're looking at an average value for my car now of £31,790. So it's lost £23,200, okay? Here's then the point where people are shouting depreciation and that you need to include the cost of depreciation into the workings. All right, let's go and play that game. So I've spent £15,944.80 in total on everything, all right? If you just want to take the cost of buying the car, so take the fuel costs away, take the repair and maintenance costs away, I have spent £11,397.19. That's how much it has cost me to buy the car. The depreciation people think that I also then need to add on, okay, think that I also then need to add on the £23,200 that the car has lost in value. So that would mean that it was cost me £39,155.80 in total. I don't quite know how to tell some of you guys this, but depreciation on an asset that you still own is just an accountancy thing, okay? The £23,200 of cost isn't a cost because I haven't sold the car. Nobody has gone to my bank and taken £23,200. And what's more, it can't be £23,200 that I have spent when all that I have spent is £11,397.19. I haven't realised a loss or any depreciation at all. This is the thing that the Mac Master, God bless him, clickbaits to death because he goes on about, I've lost £1 million or whatever it is on his Porsche Taycan. And that's a paper loss, okay? The Volvo lost an actual real amount of money when I sold it. But the car that I replaced it with was a Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid. And because of wonderful timing, the point where I sold it had asset values going soaring on these things. So it depreciated by only £500 in a year and a half or so, having doubled the mileage. It is just timing in terms of how much the thing is worth. Values of things go down and then they go back up again and then they go down again while they're on this wiggly wobbly curve. So if it's all right with you guys, I'm not going to include depreciation in my costings. I am not interested in depreciation in my costings. It's an asset which is slowly going down in value because guess what, guys? They all do. All cars, right? Eventually drift away to zero, apart from a very, very tiny number, which then get preserved and carry on and all the rest of it. The rest of them, you go back and look at the cars you've owned and they've all been scrapped, right? That's what happens to cars. Eventually, they depreciate to nothing. My all-in costs of owning this Tesla Model Y long range for 2 years and for just over 40,000 miles is a touch under £16,000. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? It's expensive. Of course it's expensive, but I was genuinely blown away by 5p a mile in running costs. And when you actually look at the overall cost of buying the thing, again, it's nothing like as scary as I thought. So I would be interested in how much is it costing with you. There are people out there getting better deals than I have. I absolutely know that, right? I got the best deal that was available at the time, but if you go on Facebook groups or you go onto Tesla owner forums, there's always a new deal. I think as things stand at the moment when I'm recording this, Tesla are doing a 0% interest deal to shift Model Ys. Fantastic. They're only doing it for the next few weeks, but if you get in at the right time, you could get a mega deal. Go shopping, go around and have a look. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks so much for listening. I'm sorry there's been loads and loads and loads of numbers, but hey, how much does your car cost you means all of the numbers. I promise that next week's video involves some driving. I do promise. It's not always going to be me sat in the office, but I had to do this two-parter because now I've got a Tuesday option as well. I thought, what the heck? I might as well go and do another video. So, like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit the bell icon. I'm releasing videos almost at random now, which is kind of exciting. It's like the early days of the channel. I do not know how many videos I'm going to release this month, and neither do you, and that's why you need to subscribe and hit the bell icon. And it really helps the channel. Buy stuff from Millie Bricks, that really helps things as well. And I will see you back here very soon on Just Get a Not Depreciating Like You Think Tesla.